Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Just out for a short ride today. It is freezing cold. We really are in winter now. There was all kinds of threats of snow over the last few days. It didn't ever really materialise. I set out on, I believe it was Tuesday, to go and climb the Old Man of Coniston in what I thought were going to be some proper winter conditions. It was barely a dusting of snow on the summit, and so that was a bit of a disappointment. There is, however, more snow forecast for the weekend. So anyway, I've had a couple of lazy days at home, really, learning stuff about the editing software, generally practicing with my editing skills, and it's been productive enough. Today, however, I am out for a ride, albeit a short one. I'm about 5 or 6 miles outside of Millom at the moment. I'm going to go and cover a piece of road that links the A595 with the A593 by going through some very beautiful landscapes. There's not too much wind today, so I'm fairly optimistic about getting Tyrone the drone up in the air. And I'm going to practice with different kinds of coverage, different angles for the cameras, and just have a play around really. And I've got a few things to talk about. We'll get to those when we're on the road in a few minutes' time. Well, that was peculiar. My GoPro just said it's done it again. It's powering off. The screen says it's got 70% battery. Ooh, I'm so glad I don't favour the GoPro any longer. It really is a problem with the batteries in the GoPro. Do not have the same problem with the Osmo Action 4. Will I buy a GoPro again? Absolutely not. It is, as I've already mentioned, very blinking cold today. Winter is definitely upon us. There was a good deal of ice on the Murgatroyd's car this morning. It was 0 degrees, or maybe even -1 or 2 overnight. And so at the forefront of my mind as I ride along at a leisurely pace today is the knowledge that there could still be patches of ice knocking around. So quite a lot of brain space being applied to that. Anything that looks as though it might be ice, I'm just going to assume is. At this point, I've not come off the bike in around about 2 years. I don't intend to do it again. I'm old and it's going to hurt. So I'm just being very careful. And I probably won't do much above 30 or 40 miles an hour today. It's not about speed when you get to our age. This particular part of the road here is known for becoming quite icy. In fact, the Murgatroyd on our way into work yesterday had a bit of a skiddy episode just around the corner here. She said I might even have let out a little eek, and I think she probably did. So I'm just being hyper cautious as opposed to seriously cautious, which is what I bring to every motorcycle ride. Staying off the brakes as much as possible, not accelerating rapidly, and just taking my time. It's actually a beautiful winter's day. Lots and lots of blue sky, some nice little cloud formations, but it's still freezing cold. Thankfully the Keist gloves that I bought about 3-4 weeks ago are still pleasing me. I am very much enamoured of this pair of gloves. They are turned up to full heat at the moment, and one of the observations I'd want to make is that they don't necessarily keep your hands warm. What they do rather is to prevent your hands from becoming cold in the first place, and that's a good thing. So, a couple of topics for discussion today. And the first one is the motorcycle live show that's currently taking place in Birmingham. Now, I had planned, and I did mention in a previous video, to go to Birmingham. I've never been to a big motorcycle show like that. And I thought it might be an interesting thing to go and do. Now, there were two things that made me decide that I wasn't going, and I shall adumbrate them clearly in the next couple of minutes. Perhaps the first thing that changed my mind about going was the current cold snap that we're having. I had wanted to travel down on the motorcycle, but when I actually looked at the stark reality of the practicality of doing that, I realised that I was going to be stopping every 30 minutes to warm up, and it was really not going to be a happy experience. I did consider just going in the van and then turning it into 2 days away. I thought about going to the motorcycle show and then travelling back up to Derbyshire, spending the night in the camper van, perhaps doing a bit of a walk or a bit of a climb on the following morning. But then I just decided I really didn't want to go, which leads me on to the second and I guess main reason that I didn't want to go. I looked into how much it was going to cost me. Now, if I'd gone in the van, we'd probably be looking at £60 in diesel, and I was also looking at, I think, £23 to get in. And this really is what clinched it for me. I wasn't going at that point. Let's be clear. The motorcycle live show, and any motorcycle show like it, is one big advertisement for new motorcycles. New motorcycles that I will mention I don't need. The latest developments involve way too much tech for me to ever want on a motorcycle. I don't even need ABS. I know how to brake. I wouldn't say that my braking skills are in any way advanced, but you know what? This magnificent beast here has a single disc on the front and drum brakes on the back. They work fine if you know how to use them. I do not need a computer on my motorcycle telling me how to brake, or braking for me, or preventing the brakes from locking up. You know what? In over 40 years of motorcycling, I've never once locked up my brakes. Just don't need that stuff. Certainly don't need a TFT. It annoys me enough that I have to have my telephone on the front of the bike here so that I can monitor my filming. That's way too much tech on a motorcycle. I just don't want it. Now, I know some people love it and some people like the new innovations, and that's fine. If you like it, go out and pay way more money to have it than you need to pay. I just don't want it. And so, anyway, back to the motorcycle shows being one big advert. Fine. I pay, I think it's about £12 a month, £12.99 or something, to not watch adverts. when I'm watching stuff on YouTube. It's a price worth paying. I hate adverts. It's just somebody telling you how you should ride, what you should buy, what you should have on your motorcycle. Am I going to pay £23 to go and see what is essentially an interactive advert? No, I am not. And that really was what made me decide that I wasn't bloody well going. Now, of course, lots of other YouTubers will have gone, and they'll have met each other and had nice chats and discussed all kinds of things. And I have to say that one of my temptations, particularly since I planned to go on the Wednesday of this week, was that I was going to get the opportunity to meet the mighty man himself, Mr. Freddie Dobbs. Mr. Freddie Dobbs was going to be apparently, so far as I know, on the Harley Davidson stand. Well, having precisely zero interest in ever owning a Harley Davidson, it wasn't really a big enough reason to go. I would like to say hello to the guy, and I'd got a whole video riff worked out where I was going to demand that he subscribe to my channel, just as a joke, and say, well, if you don't, Freddie, and you've got 3 days to do it, I will unsubscribe from yours. Of course, I'm not that petty, and whilst it might have been funny, and it might have made a little bit of YouTube gold, it wasn't a good enough reason to travel nearly 200 miles to get to a motorcycle advert. So yeah, I just decided I wasn't going, stayed home instead. Well, enough of the Motorcycle Live show. If they want me to go to that, they're going to have to bloody well pay me. And I'm not convinced there's enough money in the world to do that. It really is a lovely day, but I wish I'd put on another layer of clothing. So, I haven't seen any ice yet, but that doesn't mean that I'm about to relax. I'm on an A road at the moment. It will have seen a huge amount of traffic already today. I think it's about 12:30 in the afternoon at this point. I don't know. And what does it matter? So, on to the second topic of discussion today. Live long and prosper. I haven't done that in a few weeks. And the second topic that I want to talk about today is to do with a fellow YouTuber. I think your work is really, really funny and really entertaining, and I really like your style of video production. Yes, it's raw, yes, it's uncut, and yes, it is a stream of consciousness tirade or diatribe about whatever you're thinking about whilst you're riding. I think it's brilliant. So anyway, the reason that I'm talking about Mark, and his YouTube handle, by the way, is Slobbo Lobo, relates to a couple of things. First of all, he was kind enough to subscribe to my channel. Second of all, he went out of his way to mention my channel in one of his recent videos. I'll put a link up to that. You have, Mark, however, completely got me wrong. If you looked in my garage, you'd know that I also ride sports bikes. In fact, until quite recently, I only rode sports bikes. I had never owned a cruiser until I was 59 years old. So that's recent history. I've had this bike now, I think about 18 months. And I had very clear reasons for buying it, which is that the Murgatroyd had recently started becoming my pillion passenger, and we were planning a big long trip across Europe last summer, which was a wonderful time. But she hated it on the back of my GSX. Now, I'd always ridden sports bikes because I liked them. I did like to go fast. I did like to ride aggressively. I did like to ride like a hooligan. Now, that's something that Mr. Slobo Lobo... How do you pronounce that, by the way, Mark? Is it Slobo Lobo? Is it Slobo Lobo? Or is it Slobo Lobo? I just don't know. Anyway, Slobo Lobo came up with this idea that small channels like ours, I mean his is actually quite considerably bigger than mine, he's just broken through the 1,000 subscribers mark, I'm still yet to do that, but he has this idea that small channels need to support each other and need to talk about each other, and he talks about how occasionally a video will pop up and something about that video will grab his attention and he'll watch it and then he'll talk about it while he's out doing his crazy rides on his VFR. And his idea is that the algorithm is never going to promote small channels like ours. And so what we need to do as a small channel community, if you like, is to promote each other. Now, you'll know from the things I've said about my politics in previous videos, if you've watched them, if you haven't, why, that I don't follow leaders. But if somebody comes up with a good idea like that, I'm getting behind it, and I want to be a part of that movement. So let's all of us support each other. Let's make everything bigger, not just for ourselves but for all of us. It's a collective effort and we should be doing that. So Mr. Slobo Lobo Lobo Slobo, you will be having a link in this video. I've actually told him, I messaged him and said I'm going out today to film my response to your response to my video. So he's expecting it. He likes the banter, he likes the hurling of insults for no apparent reason, and that's exactly what he's getting from me. Do like his work, do think it has a lot of value, and whilst it might not be as slickly produced or edited like my fabulous work, it's still thoroughly entertaining. So check him out. Okay, I'm turning left here. This is a delightful road that I discovered entirely by chance earlier in the year. And it leaves the A595 not far from the exit to Ulverston, and it goes through some incredible landscape. So I'm going to head along here for a little bit and find somewhere to park up and hopefully get some really good footage.